The new year will usher in hundreds of new laws in Illinois. The Tribune highlighted many of them, including the state minimum wage going up $1 to $14 an hour. Many employees will begin to get paid leave. That's 1 hour for every 40 hours worked. There will be new legal avenues for victims of doxing and online harassment. Non-citizens in the DACA program would become eligible for law enforcement positions, and car manufacturers will have to create a carjacking hotline to help police find stolen vehicles. Gun owners in Illinois have just a couple of days left before the deadline to register assault weapons. That deadline's coming up on Monday. More than 15,000 people have filled out the form since it opened in October, but that's out of more than 2 million FOID card holders in the state. Hunting groups say there's still a lot of confusion over which guns need to be registered.
And with 2 more days until 2024, our political analyst is here to discuss some of the year's top stories in politics and how that ripple effect on all of us.
Yeah, another year, it passes.
And it was a big year, Paul.
Let's look back. Always a lot going on.
Let's start here in the city with
Sure.
the election of Mayor Brandon Johnson.
Well, and that, of course, was a big deal. He kind of, in some ways, he didn't come out of nowhere because he was Cook County Commissioner, but in that way, it was sort of reminiscent of Lori Lightfoot, somebody who was, low in the polls, and then boom, 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 they kind of rise. He had a honeymoon period, but a very short honeymoon period because this migrant issue just took over. And once it did, and I've talked to many aldermen who agree, the honeymoon came to an end. It's a big problem that he and the city council have to deal with.
So much division on that, even within the African-American community who helped usher him into office. But he is tied to the migrant issue now, and he has butted heads with the state, and J.B. Pritzker and his team, especially the one in Brighton Park, is the issue, the site that I'm talking about.
Yeah, and of course, the one thing that, as you know, that happened the other day was they did a virtual press conference with Johnson and the mayor of New York City and the mayor of Denver, and all of them basically having the same message. Federal government, we need your help. And it's the same message J.B. Pritzker has, as he wrote a letter to Pritzker this year and said, we need help. The bottom line is the city is not capable, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but there isn't the funding to handle this problem on their own. They need the federal assistance. The biggest problem, of course, is that you have governors like Greg Abbott of Texas who aren't playing nicely in the sandbox. If he were to say, look, now that you see what I'm dealing with, let's work together, let's make this happen, this might be different. But he's not. The buses, the planes, they just show up, and we're forced to deal with it on the spot.
This is an issue that will certainly linger and carry over into 2024,
no question about
it. Let's kind of look statewide now
Sure.
at the passage of the Safety Act, Illinois becoming the first state to eliminate cash bail. It's a big deal.
And of course, that was it went into effect on July 1st, and people remember it went under challenge, Supreme Court challenge, but basically it stands. Not really a surprise with the control of the Supreme Court being in Democrats' hands. But look, to date, we haven't seen any really problems yet in terms of how it's getting employed, but I would just say this as we look forward. If things go wrong, we'll have to ask the question, is it the law or is it the way prosecutors choose to prosecute? Is it the way judges choose to then assign bail or not assign bail, that kind of thing? These are human decisions that get made. So the law is what it is. The law stands. The law is there on the books. We need to keep our eye on those people who impact how it plays out, specifically prosecutors and judges, and see what they do to have this be successful.
Let's stay with that for a moment, because obviously you're going to have different interpretations and applications of the Safety Act depending on what county in the state of Illinois where you reside.
Well, exactly.
Or whatever crime you may have committed.
Exactly. And we know, for example, Kim Foxx has come under pressure and tension. It's about how they view certain cases, what they want to prosecute, and they have their own priorities of the kind of crimes that deserve more attention than others, per se, in terms of maybe whether there's bail. Again, I just think it's sort of early to say whether this thing is working or not. The good news is we haven't really been talking a lot in the news about lots of serious problems.
All right, Paul, let's move nationally now. Obviously, the person who dominated
there.
the headlines, Donald Trump. The criminal cases against him and the civil cases against him.
So lots going on. He's going to have a very busy 2024, literally starting in January with the E. Jean Carroll case #2 that comes up. He's tried to push that. Those requests were denied earlier today by an appeals court. And look, the cases of real interest as far as our viewers are concerned, we're watching the states, a couple of whom, Colorado and Maine, who have now pulled him off the ballot. I don't think those ultimately stand. I think if the Supreme Court gets involved, I don't think they're going to let me put it this way. What they're going to do is find a procedural way out of it. I don't think they're going to do anything grand. They're just going to simply say something like he was never convicted of insurrection. It'll be some procedural thing, because actually the way those cases should come out, states control election laws. So what a state does should be what rules. That would be the way things would ordinarily happen. But clearly the Supreme Court can't let it go that way, because you can't have candidates like Trump on some ballots and not on others. There's got to be a consistency.
Short of any kind of crazy, unexpected turn, Donald Trump is going to win the nomination for the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Fair to say. But on the opposite side of the ledger, maybe it's a rematch with Joe Biden. But I think I've read recently that there is some concern among Democrats about running Joe Biden again.
There's been a lot of concern, and Democrats, many are actually vocal about it. But it's look. There's many Democrats who they're loyal to Biden. What's the alternative? It's late, so it's not as though there's time to bring somebody else up. And of course, anybody that you might think of challenging him, who would be of his ilk, I mean, Kamala Harris, whatever, they're already there. They're already, she's going to be vice president. There's going to be no changes. The bottom line is, I think that if the smart money is on a Trump versus Biden rematch, anything can happen. We are 11 months away. They are two elderly guys. So anything can happen. But the bottom line is, I think that's the match.
Real quick, Jenna, I'm sorry. Third party candidate?
Oh, well, yeah, be prepared for that, sure. I mean, Robert F. Kennedy, who's coming in as an independent, Cornel West, who comes in for the Green Party, Jill Stein, who said she's coming in, though if Cornel West is the Green Party, I'm not sure where she's going. But the bottom line is, here's what we know, is a lot of those votes will likely pull from Biden. RFK might pull from Trump because of his policies, but most of the polling, and if there's a no labels candidate, there's talking about Joe Lieberman now. I mean, the bottom line is, anybody not happy with the choices, Republicans who are loyal to Trump will stay loyal to Trump without question. Those who aren't happy with Biden will look for another alternative.
No Ross Perot this time around.
No, there's no. Well, there may be a spoiler, but not nobody. No third-party candidates getting 270 electoral votes. That I can promise you.
Yeah, that's certainly different.
All right.
All right.
Paul Lisnick, thank you so much for
Happy
your
New
time.
Year,
You too.
guys. Yeah.
Always appreciate your time.
And join me, if you would, on Sunday mornings, 9 o'clock. We got a special this
Tell
this
us
weekend.
about it.
Well, we're going to have some of the best of. It's end of year, so we wanted to show a couple of some interesting interviews that we've done in the past. So that'll be our Sunday morning.
No shortage of material there.
No, and certainly an even bigger year on tap for next year as well in the
And I'll
political
call you, Patrick,
world.
and wake you up. Make sure you're watching.